This week on Full Circle Florida, taxes and tariffs, the money game and you. As President Trump's tariffs hit the economy, the world reacts. Wall Street panics, Main Street braces. And this week, I hit the streets to get your voice about what happens next. Meanwhile, Tallahassee is focused on taxes and giving you some kind of financial relief. The question is how? Cut the sales tax or eliminate property taxes? Is any of this actually realistic? And how would cities and counties fund police departments and schools? Are lawmakers slingshotting out laws without thinking about the consequences? What we're now learning. And what about the Democrats? From the special election fallout this week to Cory Booker's 25-hour-long marathon speech, are Democrats finding their footing once again, or are they still lost in the political woods? We debate, you discuss. Welcome everyone here to Full Circle Florida. Every president makes a gamble. LBJ gambled on Vietnam. Nixon gambled on China. Reagan gambled on tax cuts. Bush 41, Iraq. Clinton, NAFTA. W. Bush, Iraq again. President Obama gambled on health care. Biden, the stimulus during the pandemic. And now the Trump administration is betting on a trade war. We vote to give the presidents the power to make big decisions that impact our everyday lives. And then we vote again, and the beat goes on. Now, if you're thinking I'm here to tell you what the so-called experts think about Trump's tariffs, well, I'm a lot more interested in what you have to say. Here's your voice on your future.
In a few moments, I will sign a historic executive order instituting reciprocal tariffs.
The 90s are back, the sun is back, the heat is back, and so are we. We've got questions about the Trump tariffs. You've got answers. It's time for your voice. Let's go. We have some approaching. Way down there. Patience. What do you think about the Trump tariffs?
What about them?
Are you in favor? Are you nervous about them? What do you think?
We've done it before. Never forgets what happened 4 years ago, it seems like.
Pardon me, sir. Tell me something. The Trump tariffs, what do you think? They go into effect today. What do you think about the Trump tariffs?
Doesn't affect me.
Why not?
I'm pro-Trump, but don't affect me.
Well, what do you think about it? Tell me your opinion on how he's going about it. What do you think?
Dominance, baby. Greatest country in the world.
I think
it's a lot, huh?
Yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot there.
I used to live in Canada. I mean, they have massive tariffs over there too. You live with it, like, turkey was $150 for Thanksgiving turkey. They had Thanksgiving.
So you're not nervous about anything?
Nah. Of course, I've been in 4 wars, so this kind of stuff is not going to make me nervous about much.
I think it's a bad idea, for sure.
Why?
It's hurting both sides of the country, so yeah, we definitely don't like it.
Some people have that face like, don't bother me. Hey, Greg D, how you doing? That was Greg D. Can you believe that? You never know who you're going to run into out here. Can we ask your opinion about the Trump tariffs that are about to go into effect? What do you think?
I think it'll benefit the government in the United States, but not the working class, to be honest with you.
What do I think about the Trump tariffs? They're terrible.
I'd rather not think, because in the last couple of weeks the market hasn't looked very good. But I'm confident that it'll work out. I mean, you have to be.
Why do I think they're terrible? Because it's making everything increase whenever we order stuff.
We just want to know what he really wants from us, and just give us a more clear picture.
The economy is pretty bad, to be honest. I mean, it's good in some ways, bad in other ways. For what I do, I'm a fitness influencer, bodybuilder, personal trainer, so I'm not affected that much. But the other people that I know that have the typical 9 to 5, especially people that have kids, I know they're affected a lot by it, especially with the food prices and everything. Me being a bodybuilder, food is outrageous right now.
In the long run, it's going to help the economy, but in the short run, it's going to be painful. That's my summary.
And that's the big unknown, is just how painful and how long, right?
Exactly. I mean, to do what Trump's doing right now with downsizing the government, looking for fraud, waste, and abuse, I think he's 100% on track. No one else could do it. Everyone else is invested in the political system.
We listen to all sides, right? We listen to all sides. That's the way it is. Thank you for your feedback. I appreciate it. Enjoy your jog. Next on Full Circle Florida, the tax war in Tallahassee. Governor DeSantis versus the Speaker. Sales tax versus property taxes. And what it all means for you. Welcome back to Full Circle Florida. Let's bring in our Capitol reporter Forrest Saunders for a look at the week that was in Tallahassee. And Forrest, topic number one up there right now is taxes and how to provide some kind of relief for people in Florida. Two competing ideas on the table. Governor DeSantis wants to cut or eliminate property taxes. The other is from House Speaker Danny Perez, who's pushing for a tax cut on the sales tax side of things. Which one of these is likely to actually pass?
That's a great question. I mean, you do have Danny Perez's idea, the House Speaker's idea on slashing sales tax with a lot of support over in the House. So that gives him a leg up here because DeSantis' idea isn't even on really paper yet. We haven't seen any proposed bill language or anything like that. But of course, he does still carry a lot of weight. He is the governor, and in the past, he's basically said, I want this, and gotten it. But that's not really happening this legislative session. We're seeing more autonomy from the two chambers. You've got the Senate president, meanwhile, who's saying, hey, if we're going to do something, I don't care if it's property taxes or if it's sales taxes, I just want to make sure it's not reoccurring because we might be in a situation where we need that money back in the future, right? We don't really know what the economic headwinds are going to be here in the next 24 hours. Right. Let alone 2 years from now. So there's a lot of caution on each side of this issue. They definitely want to do something, and maybe we'll see an amalgam, some kind of combo on both of them. But I think a lot of the people that I've talked to expect that we'll get some kind of research done on what property tax cuts would look like, you know, whether or not we could actually unwind them or get rid of them. And maybe that's what they do this year and then consider it again next year, put it on the 26th ballot. Sales tax, meanwhile, they can do that with just a majority of the legislature. So that might be something that's easier to do. And DeSantis said he would sign it if it does end up on his desk. So I think a lot of people are thinking that's more likely to take the path, right. But we'll see.
All right. Well, lawmakers, Republicans who have the majority, are they on the same page on the potential consequences would be if either one of these plans actually becomes the law? If you cut property taxes, you got to figure out how to fund everything from fire departments to police to schools. If you cut the sales tax, a lot of local governments depend on that money too. So isn't this robbing Peter to pay Paul?
Yeah, I think a lot of Democrats are certainly concerned about that. They talk about it often, especially when it comes to property taxes, because those are more directly impacting public services if you get rid of them. And then you have to find a way to backfill those losses. So a lot of people expected sales taxes would have to come up to offset them. It's unclear where exactly we will land because it all depends on the policy that actually gets through with lawmakers. DeSantis right now, he's proposing a rebate plan on those property taxes, right? So homesteaders would get about a $1,000 discount on their current property taxes. The state would basically pay them back. That's something that he can do without going to the ballot. But if you're going to actually lower those rates and do it permanently, that has to go on the 26th ballot. Meanwhile, when it comes to sales taxes, it's a $5 billion cut. That is a lot of money, but they believe that they might be able to do that by just shoring up the budget overall. And it's not necessarily something that's, local governments are really relying on for public service like fire, police, and that kind of thing. So I have heard more people supporting the sales tax idea because they think that there is a way to basically move the budget, the state budget around in order to accommodate that rather than just slashing a whole bunch of property taxes and then trying to find a way to backfill.
All right, Forrest Saunders in Tallahassee. Forrest, as always, thank you. Next up on Full Circle Florida, what about the Democrats? Should they be feeling more confident after this week? Plus the politics of a trade war. How narrow of a window does President Trump really have to make this work? Our panel is here next. Welcome back in here to Full Circle Florida, everyone. Let's bring in our panel this week. He is a reporter for Axios. Yacob Reyes is back with us, and she, of course, is our political analyst, Dr. Susan MacManus. Okay, another giant week of news. Let's start with the obvious. The trade war is fun to watch until no one is paying for it. But it sounds like we're at that point in this roller coaster ride where everyone's kind of gripping for the big dip. So politically, how much time does Trump have, does the president have to get results out of this other than just the chaos? How much of a window does the president have with the American people, with Congress, with his base to prove that his big gamble is actually worth it?
It greatly depends on several things. First of all, your party affiliation. Secondly, the economy, the economic base that you rely upon for your employment. And the third thing would be the country involved. Opinions about tariffs differ tremendously depending on those particular dimensions. Right now we know, for example, 70% of Americans are worried about the tariffs raising prices. But in terms of your question about how long can you wait, some are willing to wait a couple years, some 6 months. But let me tell you, there's one thing that no one can really ignore very long, and that's a sharp increase in prices.
Yeah, and this crosses political lines, Jacob. I mean, this is not a Democrat-Republican thing. Everyone's got to pay this.
No, I think the country right now is quite volatile, right? And I think that when things move up in the grocery store, right, that's going to be felt. And I think it's because there's so much income disparity in this country. So I think if you're at the top of the bracket and you voted for Trump and you want some dramatic changes, I think you might be able to hold on a little bit more than that guy all the way at the bottom who's just trying to see egg prices go down.
Anytime a president takes this kind of risk, whether it's a war or an economic policy, you always hope for a clear, realistic goal. But I'm just wondering, how realistic is success here in terms of the time? How do you measure it? Do we have the stomach to be a manufacturing kind of economy again in this country? And what company is going to rip the cord on a factory overseas when they know, okay, the party power could switch again and it's a whole new economic policy in 4 years? Do they just wait this out? And again, it's like, what does success look like?
From the Republican perspective, Trump perspective, there are two dimensions that he is concerned about and views as a goal that he's headed towards. One is fairness. The idea that this big trade gap that this country charges our exports, they are a huge tariff, but we don't charge them much. So there's the fairness dimension. But an equally important one is the idea of, and this goes to the manufacturing, of making America more independent upon things that we do in our country. Because the world now, we know China and other countries are catching up in terms of their national and international clout economically and now even security. So there's a concern that we have to have things done here, made here, in the case that something happens around us that involves us in some sort of international conflict. That's the Republican goals of all of it.
Have you guys seen the videos making the rounds? Nancy Pelosi talked about this. Bernie Sanders talked about it. Barack Obama talked about it in no uncertain terms that the trade deficit, in particular China, was not only a problem but unfair. So they had a very, almost you could say, exact position that Donald Trump has, but yet he's the one doing it and he's taking the heat from the Democrats.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's taking the heat from everyone. I think there's a lot of people who are wary of what he's doing right now, and he's making a bet against all these things that it's going to be successful. I do think there's a lot of people in this country, a lot of them who voted for him, who want to see something different, who want action that he's been doing with all these executive orders, with all these sweeping actions. I think they want to see stuff get torn down and rebuilt from the bottom, and I think he's answering that call.
But there's also we haven't talked at all about the party dimension. As we said a little bit earlier, Republicans will wait a while, Democrats not so much. But as we know, we've talked about it many times, the number of people who say they're independents is sharply going up in this country, and independents have quickly said that they are against the tariffs.
Is the president using the tariffs as leverage to make the Trump tax cuts permanent? I know that for people out there watching who did vote for the president may think that's a cynical point of view. But in other words, you create chaos, economic uncertainty with the tariffs, then sell the tax cuts as the best way to blunt the pain of the tariffs, which even if they do work are going to take some time, but you can get these tax cuts passed in the next couple of months.
Well, the tax cuts is really a renewal of the tax cuts that people are benefiting from right now because they're scheduled to expire in 2026. Plus, they're adding a few things to it. And it really is a trade-off. It's a trade-off. On the one hand, they're asking people to accept higher prices here, but then they'll get benefits when it comes to taxes that will kind of make it even out. That's the argument.
Yeah, I mean, do you think that that's a political game of chess that they're playing here?
I think for certain, right? I think he's always looking for leverage, and I think that all this uncertainty and the different, I think he's aiming and gunning for something, and I think we should all hold our breath for what that is.
Yacob, you just wrote a piece about this real-time political war that's unfolding in Tallahassee when it comes to taxes and tax relief, and all this is in the backdrop of the economy right now. The governor wants to basically eliminate property taxes. I mean, that's another bold idea. House Speaker Danny Perez is pushing his colleagues, Republicans, and they control the House and the Senate, to cut sales taxes. What is going behind the scenes between these two? This not only seems to be a developing political conflict, but it seems like we're getting a glimpse of a post-DeSantis Florida. And it seems like Perez has no interest in bending to the governor.
I think that now that Democrats are near extinct, the Republicans are fighting amongst themselves here. And I think that they can feel this kind of power vacuum. And it's kind of the opposite of what's happening on the federal side, right? Like you have all this Republican unity, and down here it's just a complete and utter divide. And so, I mean, it goes also that the reality is DeSantis is a lame duck, and he would like it for his wife to succeed him. At least that's what the rumors are and the speculation is. And he's willing to make a proposal that doesn't make all that sense, right, to some people. And that's going to have dire effects and changes all the way down to local.
Susan, I want to get your thoughts on this, because this week at the Florida GOP meeting at the governor's mansion, DeSantis said this, quote, "These are folks," talking about Republicans, "who say if they are for Trump or put on a red hat, that you're dumb enough to let them be liberal and basically stab you in the back." He went on to say, as a GOP supermajority, it is not worth the paper it is printed on unless they act like a supermajority. What do you make of that?
Historically, supermajorities, when you have one party controlling everything, the splits, as he says, are within the party, and that's exactly what's happening here. And in terms of DeSantis versus the House Speaker, watch, you're already seeing President Trump is now starting to force them to look more cohesive and work together. I'm watching that as we go forward.
Are you surprised by the bluntness that DeSantis, I mean, these are some of the nicer words, by the way. I mean, this was a full-on verbal beatdown against Republicans in his own party, in his own state.
And that is a bit disturbing. A lot of people that like him, they're starting to say, well, maybe it is time for him to move on. They don't like his style as much as they used to. But nonetheless, he's still the governor. He has a veto pen. Now, where it all started was when the House got testy and overrode some of DeSantis's vetoes of last time, and they saw that they could.
It does seem like the governor is saying, hey, don't forget who got Republicans to this point in Florida in terms of registration. Quickly, the Democrats, they're trying to find their voice again. You had the Cory Booker speech. Do they have a real leader, though? What is their plan? Should they be feeling confident, or are they still lost in the woods?
I mean, I think that it's the hardest thing that the Democratic Party has encountered, right, is how do you counter Trump? How do you oppose Trump? I think they're still trying to find that voice. I think a lot of people felt that what Booker did was performative, but I also think, I mean, what else do you do?
Hang on with me. We got a few more seconds left. Let's get this back on the other side. Next on Full Circle Florida, our final thoughts on the week that was and what to watch out for in the weeks ahead. Welcome back to Full Circle Florida. Time for our final thoughts. All right, what are you left with this week? What are you anticipating next week?
Tariffs, tariffs, tariffs. Next week, I'm watching what Anna Paula Luna from Pinellas, whether she gets the House back together again on letting women with children vote in a proxy. I'm really watching that. And so is the country. Yes.
Yeah. All right, what are you looking for? What are your final thoughts?
I want to be focused on the GOP divide, not just on the state level, but on the county level. I think we've seen that in the Hillsborough Commission, there's a supermajority as well, and yet every time they've been presented the most conservative option, they've chosen not to go with it. So I'd be interested to see how that shakes out.
You know, as the saying goes, all politics is local. I mean, it's those local boards that decide what your water bill is. I mean, it's people kind of look over that when they're voting, and it's oftentimes the county commission that will impact your life directly. All right, guys, thanks for being with us here this week, and thank you for watching us here on Full Circle Florida. We hope you'll join us again here next week. Make sure to add our free 24/7 streaming news channel, ABC Action News Plus. There you will find all the in-depth reports on the stories that matter to you. Have a great week. Take care.